The snow fell heavy that night over the quiet town of Willow Creek, a curtain of white that muffled the world and softened every sound. The lanterns outside the saloon flickered weakly against the bitter wind, and down the narrow path behind the stables, the smell of wood smoke mingled with the scent of freshly baked bread. Inside the small cookhouse attached to the back of the inn, Ilara Dawson stood by the stove, her fingers trembling as she kneaded dough she'd already remade twice. The warmth of the oven brushed against her flushed cheeks. But it wasn't the heat that made her heart race. It was the thought of what she was about to do. For 3 years, she'd worked quietly in this town, the shy cook who smiled politely but spoke to no one unless she had to. Her world was simple: bake, serve, clean, and retreat to the corner of her small room before dawn. But tonight wasn't simple. Tonight she needed help, and not just any help, but a lie that could change everything. Outside, the wind howled and boots crunched over snow. A shadow loomed through the fog. Broad-shouldered, wrapped in a worn duster coat, a hat pulled low over eyes that had seen too much. Cole Hartman and the rancher, who'd lost everything last summer, when the fire took his home, his cattle, and the woman he once loved. Folks said he hadn't smiled since. They said he kept to himself on the North Ridge, breaking wild horses and mending fences like he was trying to patch his own broken soul. Ilara had seen him once at the market, helping an old widow load her cart, and something in his silence had called to her. Maybe it was because she too knew the ache of loneliness. Maybe because she'd been invisible for so long that even the smallest kindness from a stranger had felt like sunlight. When the door creaked open and the wind swept in, Ilara looked up from the counter, startled. Cole stood there, dusted with snow, a lantern in his hand, his blue eyes shadowed beneath the brim of his hat. "Miss Dawson," he said softly, his voice deep and low, the kind of voice that carried more sorrow than words could hold. "The innkeeper said you were still up." "I didn't mean to startle you." She swallowed hard, trying to still her shaking hands. "You didn't," she lied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can I help you, Mr. Hartman?" He stepped closer, the warmth from the lantern flickering across his rugged face. "Actually," he said, "I came to ask if you needed anything. You've been working late lately. Thought maybe the storm caught you alone." Her heart stuttered. This was her chance. The moment she'd rehearsed a dozen times in her mind, but now the words tangled on her tongue. "Mr. Hartman," she began, then stopped. Her eyes darted to the frosted window, where she could see the glow of lanterns from the saloon across the road. "There's something I need to ask you, something foolish." "Maybe." His brow furrowed, and he set the lantern down on the counter between them. "Go on," he said. 2-5 gently. She hesitated, twisting the hem of her apron. "Tomorrow's the harvest dance," she said softly. "You know how small this town is. People talk. They always talk." Her cheeks burned as she continued. "My cousin's coming from Denver," she's loud. "Nosy, and she thinks I'm still alone. She made it her mission to find me a husband before Christmas." Ilara tried to laugh, but it came out shaky. I can't let her pity me again. So I thought maybe just for one night you could pretend to be my..." Cole stared at her, silent, as if the weight of her words had frozen between them. The storm outside rattled the window, and for a long moment, only the crackle of the stove filled the room. Then he spoke, his tone quiet, uncertain. "You want me to pretend to be your boyfriend?" She nodded, feeling her throat tighten. "Just for one night. At the dance. No one needs to know. I'll make you dinner every night for a week. Or 2 weeks, if that's fair." Her voice wavered. "I wouldn't ask, but..." He held up a hand to stop her. "You don't owe me anything," he said firmly. "But why me?" Ilara met his gaze, and for the first time, he saw the loneliness behind her eyes, a loneliness that mirrored his own. "Because you don't look at me the way others do," she whispered. "Like I'm quiet or odd or small, you just see me." That simple confession pierced something in Cole, a place he thought had long gone numb. He took a slow breath, his jaw tightening as memories of his lost love flickered in the back of his mind. The laughter, the fire, the pain that came after. He didn't want to feel again. But looking at Ilara, standing there in the glow of the lantern, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and hope, he realized maybe he'd already started to. He looked down at the floor, then back up at her. "All right," he said finally. "One night." Relief flooded her face, and for the first time in years, a small, genuine smile curved her lips. "Thank you." she whispered, her voice trembling. Cole nodded, reaching for his hat. "Don't thank me yet," he muttered. "Tomorrow's going to be a long night." As he turned to leave, the wind roared again, slamming the door halfway shut. Ilara rushed forward to latch it, her hands brushing his arm. A fleeting touch, but one that sent warmth through both of them despite the cold. She watched him step out into the snow, his figure disappearing into the swirling white. For a long moment she stood there, her heart pounding. Tomorrow would change everything, and she didn't even know if she was ready. She turned back to the stove, staring at the flickering fire. Somewhere deep inside, she whispered to herself, just one night. But the way her heart was already aching told her it would never be just that. The next evening came wrapped in golden frost. The town square of Willow Creek was alive with music, fiddles humming, boots tapping, laughter spilling from the heart of the old barn strung with lanterns that swayed.